So there's a hub tension, huh? Was that kind of a truing effect of the energy going into the spaceship and its relative position or reference anchor in the environment towards Earth? Comparison of that kind of institutional logic, because these Mysi cubes, they seem to make a wider bandwidth of determination of those strains that the hub might feel or sense with the various three axes of kinetics multiplied out through the infinite range of axial interaction between molecular nodes and masses. That sets the what do they call it? The order of like a first order pair of quantal clusters or factorial sets where you could have a bigger mass effect and knowing what the order of operations would be for cascading reactions inside of a system. So the Mylar pathing is a very light and good way of creating a sail. And then you start thinking about redundancy. And when you drag the slide bar towards higher redundancies and safety factors, towards apparatuses such as hulls or fabrics for safety, then you get into active processing to be the fastest reaction possible for changing dynamics in the range of what can be optically plumbed into the data set. So if this is a vessel going towards the center of a really dense planet and it's having to melt the system around it in order to get through the rocky layers, then that type of energy recirculation is kind of like the saline set with that splice reference of what a root tuber might be able to do on its own with enough sugar load and the right volumetric flipping of reactions in a consequential flow format to an inspirational moment, a pivotal uh, or a spiraling truing, given its range. It's good to think about because then the amount of battery that that structure can carry in its various forms of resonance and application in the environment sets its tempo for activities and all other things like that, because you can have these sugar molecules like fructose reformulate in a stasis in an inverted format to where it tastes different or distinct at these ranges of ratios based off of the solution. And so that ends up being both the through channel through the center of a uniform on uniform volumetric system in layers of approach, like a lipid interconnection between gravity waves and EM field or something like that, versus the total density of material around for more complex reference temporal anchors like bone structures and all of those long-term support fulcrum leverage facilitating whatever they're good for, if that's on the outside of a beetle to keep the fluid stuff safe, or the outside of a hull, and it being a massive processor might help maintain a slipstream of hull interaction with whatever shape of vessel you choose. I like the spherical shapes myself, uh, but then that's less of a wheel and more of a spherical roller bearing kind of assembly. Kind of like that one awesome movie. What was it? Swordfish? Anyways, uh, if we think about that in processors, think of a planar processor where the electrical impedance is planned for a electrical moment to center based off of the amount of material and other substrates, the temperatures, and all of those little dualities and the interference patterns of reaction. And to do that, you might start cleaning up that space to be a more predictable avenue with your measure of space-time's changes to what that does in that strata. So if you get the opportunity to make a three-dimensional processor, then you could be rapidly solving on the leading edges, if you will, and something moving close to the speed of light, or along the lateral walls if you need to have that kind of an illustration of where those effects are first localized towards center. But then if you think of its relative velocities towards zero and orbital truing and all of that, then you get to weave those Mobius strips of suspension towards your own rate of investment for preparing molecular assemblies or routing data is kind of an investment, or submitting the tick rate that ends up being a feedback for the distributed unison system.